Welcome back to the Lipoedema podcast. We are your host, Shell.
And Tiana, and we are in the same room.
Yay! Coming to you live from Lipoedema Australia Conference in Melbourne.
That's right, but not necessarily live because we will go live with this episode in 2 weeks.
Yes, but we're recording it live.
Yeah, which is so exciting. We're never in the same room at the same time, so how fun. Look, we've just been through day one of our Lipoedema Australia Conference experience. It was Fridays all day, but that was for clinicians or health professionals, and obviously we are not, so we didn't go. But we just wanted to do a little bit of a recap about our experience today, because oh my God, my mind is spinning.
Yeah, so our brains are a bit fluffy with all the information that's gone in, but we've both got some scribbled notes. So we're just going to go through them and just put something together. And then we divided and conquered. Yeah. So because we had three things running at the same time, we sort of chose one each, and then we'll report on the third one when we do playback on that.
Yeah, we had to miss out on one of them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's only two of us.
That's right. That's right.
So I guess we kick off with our keynote speaker, which was Karen Herbst. Can I just say that she is one impressive lady?
Oh, she is amazing. And even like after her keynote speaker, she's going to the other sessions and sitting in and taking in what's happening. And she even got in one of the other sessions I went to, the speaker couldn't answer the question. So Karen got up and she answered the question for them.
I just wish you could have her in every room.
Yes.
She's so lovely, and it's such a pleasure to have her here. Obviously, she comes from overseas, so to have her come here, not only talk yesterday, but she did a keynote speech this morning, and she facilitated a panel discussion later on in the morning. And as Shelley said, she's gone to other rooms and listened to conversations. It's been pretty incredible. But her keynote was fascinating. And one of the things that I really took away from it was all of the contraindications that could be involved in lipedema. And one specifically that sort of speaks to me is extreme fatigue. According to the cohort that they tested, 87% of people self-presented with extreme fatigue. And I must say that sort of resonates with me, because the first thing to go when I get even slightly sick or whenever something happens to me is my energy. Mm-hmm. So my energy goes down, and that happens when I'm pregnant, and it happens when I'm getting sick. I just find it really hard to get out of bed and feel very fatigued. And I just thought that was a very strange thing. Mm-hmm. But it's nice to connect that dot for me.
Yeah, and I love the language she used. It was unexplained, persistent, and relapsing exhaustion. I was like, I felt that to my core. It was like, oh my goodness, and that lingering tiredness.
Yeah.
Like, and I guess because, like you were saying, this is self-reported. Some people just accept it. The same with pain. We go to this point where we're just like, oh, it's normal. Like, we accept the pain and discomfort, and it's not normal, so we don't go to our doctors telling them these things because we just think it's normal. It's just part of being a busy mum, or, spreading yourself a bit thin.
Yeah.
But it's not. This is part of lipedema.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be.
Yeah.
And the other thing was 29% self-reported arthritis. And so that could be because of inflammation and or hypermobility, because we know that we have a predisposition for hypermobility, and of course there's a lot of inflammation when it comes to lipedema. So it kind of makes sense. And I sort of resonate with that a little bit, especially in winter. I have a feeling I have some sort of inflammatory disorder, especially in my hands. I get very swollen hands in winter, and I get chilblains on my hands, and it becomes quite sore for maybe like 4 weeks in the coldest part of winter, and then it sort of goes away. And I've sort of played with my diet a little bit over the years when I felt compliant around that time. Mm-hmm. And I can say that if I have a really diligent diet, like sugar and everything is sort of out, it is better, but it's not all the way gone. Mm-hmm. So I resonated with that sort of self-reported condition as well.
Yeah, yeah. So because it's that inflammatory response, if you're on point with what you're eating and you're not eating as inflammatory, it doesn't completely go away, but it does alleviate the symptoms.
Yeah, and look, I think if I continuously lived in any inflammatory lifestyle, it would be cumulative, and I would probably not have those symptoms.
Yeah.
So we sort of get the effort we put in, I suppose, in
Yeah.
that respect.
Yeah.
But a lot of her talk was about mast cell activation syndrome, and we heard a little bit about this with one of our guests that we recently had, Ellen, who was on, and it was really nice to hear from Elle and from a perspective of a lipedema warrior who has a particular interest in this, to then hearing about it from Karen with that more scientific detail in there. And I must say that a lot of that detail probably goes over my head, to be honest.
Yeah.
But she did put it very eloquently, and probably more eloquently than we can put it in right now. But it was very interesting.
So I had written down 55% of lipedema sufferers have mast cell activation. So I think there was mast cell syndrome and mast cell disease. There was two distinct differences, but it was over my head. I didn't really understand.
Yeah, so I guess the mast cell activation syndrome, there was one specific example which rings true in my family. You know, vibration plate? So we have one at home. And sometimes after I've been on the vibration plate, I get really itchy, and my husband does too. And that is mast cell activation. It's not a bad thing, Karen was saying. She said you just keep going, but you may want to wear some compression. It's nothing to be alarmed about. But if you're having those kind of things constantly, you may have a syndrome, mast cell activation syndrome. That's just one example.
Yeah, because there's mast cells all over us, and they're like hanging around where we're getting all that vibration. So they're going to act up a little bit, but it's not, like you said, it's not a bad thing. And if you wear compression, they will dissipate, they will calm down, but it just activates them. So that's why we get that itchiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And mast cells are throughout our entire body. So each sort of function of our body has different mast cells. So if you have the syndrome, it's probably throughout your entire body, throughout all of your organs, etc.
Yeah.
So it's pretty complicated to just hone in on one thing. But she was talking about treating with antihistamines, which I thought was really interesting. And it's probably something that you need to speak to an immunologist.
Immunologist or an allergen person.
Yeah.
An allergy person.
That's it.
Sorry, just looking at my notes if you're watching us online. An immunologist or an allergist.
Yeah, there you go.
Can diagnose mast cell disease or syndrome. But she also said that just start treating it. She said mast cell stabilizers won't harm you. So you may as well, if you suspect you have it, try them.
Yeah, and she
see if it alleviates them.
She mentioned melatonin.
She did too. Yeah,
which would disrupt the activation of the mast cell syndrome from the endocrine system specifically. That's the endocrine system and the mast cells. And she said melatonin might be good. I mean, we don't see any risk with taking melatonin unless it pushes towards some kind of allergy. And obviously check with your pharmacist and check with your healthcare provider, because if you're taking any medications, they need to know about it. But melatonin was another trick, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I've got some them at home that I was giving the kids when they weren't sleeping properly. So I'm like, I might try those little banana melatonin vitamins when I get home.
Sounds good. That was all my notes. Do you have anything else for Karen?
I have a few, actually. So, all right, bear with me. 75% of lipedema sufferers have hypermobility as well. 77% of lipedema sufferers have ADHD.
Check.
Go figure. Go figure. So, start at mast cells. I'd written endotoxemia. I will come back to you on that, because she did mention that as being, so if you have lipedema and obesity, which in the later stages, 87% of stage 3 and 4 have both. And then we get these, I'm going to look at it again, what did I say it was?
Oh my gosh.
Endotoxemia. So endotoxemia affects your mast cells. It infects inflammation. It does all of this as well. So I'll look more into it and get you a better definition. Maybe I'll do some little I know, PowerPoints or something that we can upload separately.
Seems like a big snowball effect.
Yes.
As you go through.
Yeah.
You've got mast cell activation, you could have lipedema, you could have ADHD, you could have inflammatory, all sorts of inflammatory disorders, and then you get corresponding obesity, and it's all just like a snowball effect.
Yes. And the other thing I had written down here was that you can test your genes. She said that lipedema doesn't come up on gene tests.
No, there's not one
There's
gene.
not one gene. So, but she did mention that if you wanted to get your genes tested to see what mutation is affecting you, that sequencing.com or 23andMe. I think we have a DNA one here too, don't we, in Australia?
Yeah, and she specifically mentioned the KIT gene mutation.
Oh, that's what that means.
So
deciphering my notes for me. I'm like, why did I write KIT there?
And I think that corresponds with like some of the mast cell activation, I believe. So if you want to test for mast cell activation of some kind, and I'm not sure of which part of the body, but you could look for the KIT gene mutation.
Okay, I have a whole nother page that I wrote for Karen because mast cells, I have some mast cell issues, so I was really interested in that. So she said, if you have mast cell issues, you gain weight more easily, that your nodules would be painful, that any inflammation makes the fat grow. With mast cell, liposuction activates more fat growth through surgery.
Well, it's a big stressor, isn't it? So
isn't it? Yeah.
It creates more inflammation, and that then makes you grow fat.
And someone asked about collagen, and I know when we spoke to Elle, she said about collagen as well. And Karen said the hydrolyzed collagen, which is what Ella had said, and she said that we need to be looking after our bones and muscles, and collagen is good for that. We don't know if it, there's no large trials on whether it affects our connective tissue, if it fixes our connective tissue, but you may as well take it if you want to try it because it's going to be good for our bones and our muscles, which we really need to look after.
Anything else?
No. Oh, well, yeah, okay, I do. She said, someone asked about the contraceptive pill, and she said that when you go on the pill, you may have a little weight gain, but the benefits of being on the pill would generally outweigh that little bit of weight gain. And then when you go off again, you may have a little bit of weight gain because it's the fluctuation in your hormones. She said, but if going on the pill stops you from getting pregnant because you don't want to have babies, then you can just deal with that little bit of weight gain.
Yeah, the cost-benefit analysis is pretty clear that that weight gain will then stabilize. So if you're happy to just put on a couple of kilos and then stabilize, and just know that when you're coming off the contraceptive pill, you might do the same, but then it will stabilize. So I found that really interesting as well because my experience was that after I got my IUD removed, I also had hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. I can't remember which one after getting sick, and then that exacerbated my lipedema. And I don't know which one. It was probably a combination of all of that.
Being sick,
that did that.
Having that removed,
Correct.
all of that. So hypo, so your thyroid wasn't working properly.
It was
under. Oh, so it was overactive.
It was overactive.
Overactive.
I was going like crazy.
Oh, babe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was short term. It was very acute, but my lipedema really grew at that point.
Yeah, everything would have been going full steam ahead.
Yeah. So Lisa Higgins was our next speaker. And I must say, I really loved this talk because it was very actionable. And I was sitting there and I'm like, I wish my mum could be here to listen to this. So I tried to write down everything that she said and I failed completely.
Well, because we want to listen as well. So it's really hard to want to listen and take it in and be present ourselves, plus trying to take all the notes.
That's right.
So we're lucky. We got 90 days to watch it back. So
yeah. But basically she was talking about no or low cost management strategies for lipedema, which who doesn't need that in their life if they're dealing with lipedema? We all know that you're very privileged to be able to afford to have surgery or to go and get monthly manual lymphatic drainage or to buy a pneumatic compression pump, which is thousands of dollars.
Or even flat knits, like, because not all states have flat knit schemes to be able to afford flat knits as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple of things that I wrote down, which was at the beginning, and then I hope Shell supplemented later on at the end. But diaphragmatic breathing is like key, because diaphragmatic breathing activates all of the lymphatic system in your gut. And so just taking 5 breaths, big breaths that move the diaphragm down, not breaths up here, but diaphragmatic breathing.
Fill your tummy with air.
Yeah.
Feel it. And she even said, put your arms out, so it really makes you think about filling your tummy with air.
Yeah.
As you go.
So we actually did that during the session. She also said drinking lots of water, small amounts often is what she said. And she had a really good measurement of 35 mils per kilo. So for a 70-kilo woman, it would be 2.4 liters.
2 points.
Yeah. So that's a really good determinant, but just small amounts often. And she used that great analogy about the drought. So if you're in a desert and there hasn't been any water and everything's cracked and dry, and then a big heavy rainfall comes, like you drink a whole lot of water, the soil can't cope with all of that water and it floods. Whereas if the drought was broken by a drizzle and a consistent drizzle, the ground would have time to absorb that, which means you'll be going to the bathroom less, still often, but less, because your body's absorbing that water. So that was really good too.
Yeah, that was a really good analogy.
The other thing about water was exercising in water. Very good for lipedema, not just because of the compression, but also because it's resistance training. And there's a sense of that cold therapy as well. So it's sort of like multi-pronged. And the last one that I have written down is legs up the wall, or elevating your legs. If you have mobility issues, maybe getting on the floor to put your legs up the wall might not be accessible to you, but elevating your legs, even sitting right angled and putting your legs on a chair, would make a really good difference if you do that often. Over to you.
Awesome. So I didn't write down too much because I was busy listening, but so I wrote down the benefits of just breathing properly. And I think that's something people are like, yeah, we all breathe, but that's involuntary breathing. We need to start really putting some effort into our breathing, because it lowers our blood pressure, it reduces stress, it improves our digestion, and improves our cardiovascular health just by taking those deep belly breaths, like air. It's free, beneficial. We just got to get used to taking those big, deep breaths. And yeah, I had raise your legs. Every time we move our lymph. So even if you're hanging the washing out, go up on your tippy toes a little bit, give it a little bit of a pump. When you sit up from the toilet, sit back down and go up again. Like, add in these little extra movements throughout the day. Like, you don't have to go on a big walk every day, but if you do those little incidental movements, like, it'll keep your lymph pumping and can help everything. I also had the bra strap. She had this, so I think this bra, I wear sports bras because I don't like underwire and it's not good for my lymph. But if you're watching, you can see I'm pulling my strap. She had this little cushion thing on her bra strap so that it would spread the pressure. So you weren't cutting into your shoulders with which can cut off lymph. So that was really cool. So she called him a spacer.
She called them a spacer, but I don't think there was a specific name for them.
No.
It was a silicone type thing. She also mentioned the bra strap underneath. She said if you've got a tummy, and right now, because I'm pregnant, I definitely have a tummy. And she said that the strap underneath shouldn't be so thick because it rolls and compresses like 2-fold or 3-fold because it's rolling. So you'd want a thin sort of band at the bottom. But if you didn't have a big stomach, then having a thick band that sort of spreads across the area is also really good. So it depends on your body shape.
Yeah. Yep, that was all I had from Lisa.
Nice. She also went through her the sequence for self-massage, and I thought that was really valuable. She actually has it on her website as a free resource. So if you cannot afford to go to manual lymphatic drainage, or you don't have a pump, you can actually do self-massage just using your hands.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
She
has a sequence.
Yes.
Yay. Oh my gosh, the next one was the panel discussion. We had 5 surgeons. We had Ramin, Shayan, Dr. Thomas Lamb.
Yep.
We had Dr. Somia, Adrian Brooks, and Beryl Tan. And Karen
was questioning.
Facilitator.
Yeah.
Amazing. And they were talking about the differences of all different types of surgery because they all have a different approach.
Yeah, just slightly different. Slightly different. Did you write a lot of notes down?
Let's see. So I'm pretty sure it was Beryl that said that as a surgeon, her self-surgery is the very last piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Small piece of the puzzle. All of the conservative management that we do, all of the work that we do is so important. They are not there to fix us. We have to do the work, and they're just the icing on the cake if we are so lucky to be able to afford it.
That's exactly. I wrote that down too because I loved that. That a multi-modality treatment with surgery as the end. So we have to do all of these things and then surgery at the end. So yeah, I love that. So that's how important conservative management is. We need to do it all.
We need to do it
Even
all.
if you're going down the surgery path, you still need to invest in conservative management.
Yeah. And I think probably they concentrate on you getting your conservative management right before you go through surgery so that then after surgery, it's not such a shock to your body and you're already compliant with that stuff. It's already a habit in your life. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was interesting that I found out that Dr. Lamb does a bloodless liposuction using a tourniquet in some instances, usually the lower part of the leg, and then the upper part of the leg he uses, I believe, tumescent. Bloodless. Yeah, I'd never heard of bloodless liposuction before, and I'd be keen to learn more about that.
Yeah.
What else do you have?
Oh, do you have anything else?
I have a couple of things.
I don't have too much. They all seem to say MLD from day 5 and twice a week after that. This is after surgery, sorry. After surgery, MLD at day 5 and then twice a week. And then pump daily. If you have a pneumatic pump daily. That was what Beryl had said. And she also highlighted the risk of liposuction and that 1 in 5,000 die during liposuction due to DVT, deep vein thrombosis. So you've got to move, you've got to pump, you've got to wear your compression. So that's not just lipedema patients, that is all liposuction.
Across the board.
Yeah.
A couple of other points from me. We were all very curious about the fat regrowth in the areas of surgery. And, it was pretty common across the board that they said it's quite unlikely that fat will grow back in the space where they've removed it, but it can definitely grow in other areas, especially because surgery is a very inflammatory option. You're going under anesthetic. It's traumatic to the body. You are going to have inflammation afterwards, and that's where, as lipedema, our fat can grow elsewhere. If it does regrow in the area of the site that's been operated on, it would grow back so much slower because you're back at a very early stage of lipedema. So it would take longer to get back to the stage that you're at, as long as you are continuing with conservative management. Results are not instantaneous. 6 to 12 months until you can see results from your liposuction for lipedema. They also spoke about, and there's this new system that some of the surgeons are using called Renuvion, and this is for skin tightening because, of course, when we're getting volume removed, the skin may be loose around it. We might have loose skin, and some people retract well, especially if they're under 40, and then the over 40s, their skin doesn't retract as well. But they all said that garment compliance is key for your skin to retract and for that shape of your leg to be more shapely. That cosmetic result comes from your compliance with compression rather than having a contouring approach to your surgery. So that was really interesting. But Renuvion can be really effective especially in the over 40s, because collagen is decreased and there's less of a chance for you to get your
spring back.
Yeah.
You're like an old elastic band, I think is what they said, where your elasticity is just gone.
The other thing that they touched on, which I thought was really important, was some of the surgeons ask you to lose as much weight as you can before you have surgery. That's really triggering for women with lipedema. Not only the ones that have corresponding obesity, but the ones that feel that they don't have corresponding obesity. But Dr. Somia mentioned that it was a mechanical thing because they need to actually move you in certain positions to get to the spots where they need to insert the cannula and remove the fat. And in specific positions, if you have like a large abdominal region, for example, they can't move you into that position to get the optimum result for you for fat removal.
Yeah, because if they put you, I think you call it the prone position. So if you're on your tummy, you can't breathe. If you've got this big tummy and like you won't be able to breathe. So they can't put you in that position when you're knocked out because they can't control your breathing. Like, yeah, it's just not a good position for you to be in.
It's a good point, and we don't think about that mechanical stuff. Also, the more obese you are, the more risk you have to anesthetics.
Yeah.
But it's sort of, and Shelley and I were having a conversation about this, the way that it's said in your appointments, like the fact that you have to lose more weight, there's got to be a better way for them to explain to us why, and those mechanical reasons and the risk of anesthetics is probably a less harsh way to sort of bring that into the conversation.
Yeah, and I think Beryl said it really beautifully, and she said we need to improve body composition to be ready for surgery.
Yes.
Not just to lose weight. Because I think she actually brought up like gastric bypass surgery, and she might have actually said Ozempic as well. She said like they get rid of weight, water, fat, muscle.
Yeah, we
need to keep this muscle. And that's been my thing from the start, because I was told to go to a metabolic physician, and I'm like, I need to keep my muscle. So yeah, not for me, thanks.
Yeah.
Not at this moment in time. And did you have more?
No.
So Adrian Brooks said, because someone said, is surgery a cure? And this is something we've had lengthy discussions about. He said it can't cure, but it can reset your clock. So yes, I like that.
Yay. So then we divided. And Michelle went...
Yes, I went to see Vanessa. Wait, let me get our book so we can have a proper look.
Oh.
Wait, sorry.
So I went to see Megan Pfeffer, and she's a board member as well as a clinical nutritionist. It's really interesting to hear her talk. She was talking about leaky vessels and nourishing solutions. Now, I have to admit, by this stage of the morning, and I'm already quite unwell, my brain wasn't working too well for a lot of the clinical information that she was putting in. But it was still so interesting to hear her talk. She started talking about sodium deficiencies or an increase in sodium, and the issue with having a variable level of sodium, and whether if we have low sodium, we should supplement with sodium, and the contraindications of high sodium. So it was quite a lengthy talk about sodium in general. It was interesting when she said if you go on a low sodium diet to address your sodium, you actually have a mechanism to spare compensatory sodium retention in 20% of people with low sodium. So even if you go on a low sodium diet, your body might protect you from, because low sodium is quite dangerous. You need sodium, you need electrolytes. We know this, not just sodium, potassium and magnesium as well. I'm trying to pick out, I'll let you go next because I'm trying to pick out a couple of other things that she said. So I'm going to read my notes.
Okay. So I went and saw Vanessa. I can't pronounce her last name, unfortunately. Ereaux. It was mental health first. So she's a psychologist. So she was saying how important it is to fix our body image first. So she's talking my language. And then she showed all of these things we can do, the sort of 2 for 1. So you do this, it'll impact this as well, which was really cool. It was a lot like Lisa on like the cost effective things. This was like that bundling of habits so that we can get better bang for our buck. So the first one was low carb and inflammatory eating. Not only is it good for our body, it's really good for our mental health and our brain. She said if you on your vibration plate, listen to a podcast at the same time or listen to some music. So you're doing two things. It's like habit stacking, which is really cool. Do some breathing techniques while you've got your pump on. Movement, like this is a 3-for-1. So move your body, get your lymph going, is good for your mental health and helps you sleep. And sleep is super important. So so then she went on to prioritize sleep, MLD, compression, laughter, journaling, and gratitude. And that was something that I always forget is, like, 'cause I love gratitude and I talk about it a fair bit. That's actually cognitive behavior therapy. Like, it's a CBT. So it's something that psychologists use. So that was all of my notes on that.
Amazing. I'm going to go back to Megan's chat about the leaky vessels and nourishing solutions. The nourishing solution portion of that, she mentioned flavonoids, which is like flowering plants, is probably the best way to describe what flavonoids are. She mentioned vitamin D, and we know as women, a lot of us are deficient in vitamin D, so that's a big one. She mentioned omega-3s, omega-3 fatty acids, and also ketones. So all of those things, if we get them in our diet, less likely to have leaky vessels. So there were some practical things in there.
Awesome. Too. We want to stop those leaky vessels.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one I went and saw Tamryn Reimann. She is an OT. So a lot of what she was talking about was just practical things, like the big list that you see of all the conservative management that we need to do. And she sort of just pinpointed a few things that we need to think about. And that was incorporating movement into our day. And we want to prioritize working on our balance and our mobility because we want to prevent falls. Like, that was the biggest thing that she sort of was speaking about. And just, there is that massive list. Don't try and take it all on. Like, just one thing at a time, which is something we spoke about a whole lot. And she also spoke about the spoon theory, which is my jam. That's my theory that I teach at school. So I might actually do something on that and post that as well.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that was it.
Yeah, I'm going to be really quick on the one that I went to, which was Sharyn Frantz, who is a Lipoedema board member. And Lipoedema Australia conducted a survey. I think it was late last year, if I can remember correctly. They got 1,010 survey results in 3 days. So an incredible response from the Lipoedema community, both qualitative and quantitative data. Just a couple of stats: 54.2% of participants noticed their lipedema from puberty. But the average age of diagnosis in that population is 41 years old. So they were living for decades with lipedema without a diagnosis, which is pretty staggering.
But that has come down because it used to be 48.
Well, but this isn't the average age of diagnosis for the full population.
Oh,
this is just the people that noticed it during puberty.
Oh, sorry. Yep, got ya.
Because some people don't have an issue with lipedema until perhaps they fall pregnant.
Yeah, or they have a stressful event later. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, there was pregnancy, stressful events, perimenopause.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they she went through a lot of really interesting stats and a lot of really sad comments from the lipedema community about how hopeless it feels. And in fact, the most used word in some of the free text was debilitating. And I thought, it was pretty heartbreaking to hear that.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, people like the most common or the upper limit of people spending money on conservative management, they've spent around $3,500 on lipedema for conservative management since they've been diagnosed. And yet 1/3 of the cohort who answered this survey are spending $0 on psychological support. And we need that.
We need that.
Yeah, we need that. So that was a really fascinating discussion. And we were talking after Sharyn finished all of those stats about whether they would repeat this survey to get like longitudinal data, and they're very open to doing that, of course. So it'd be really nice to see if they do repeat that, and then whether any of those markers come down, like the age of diagnosis and the amount of money spent on conservative management, the amount of money increased for psychological support, etc. So I found it really nice.
Oh, that is awesome. So actually, I did mention before that in the session I was in,
I'm making her sick.
Oh my God, that Karen had popped up and answered a question, and the question was about the vibration plate, and she said use them because they build muscle, build bone, and they move lymph. So
Nice.
she was all over vibration plates. She said they were a good thing to invest in.
Nice. So our next chat was with Dr. Adrian Brooks, who was one of the surgeons that was in the panel discussion. And I had
What a character!
He's really
cool.
my
goodness,
yeah.
he's a bit of a dude.
Yeah.
Like he's a dude.
What I liked about his talk is he talked about his journey through his surgical career, and I found that really fascinating because it sort of brought together like why he uses the systems and processes that he uses and what he's learned along the way.
And that he's learnt from his mistakes. Like he admitted that he made mistakes. He didn't know about lipedema and he was treating it.
Yeah.
But he learnt, like, these things made him grow and evolve, and he wanted to share that evolution of his practice, which is good.
It is good.
Refreshing.
Sum it up from him, he does liposuction and skin incision, sometimes not together, sometimes separately, sometimes together if it calls for it. It's very individual. He uses lymph sparing techniques, and he uses body jet, which is something that he learned from Frantz, which is a specific machine, I guess. But that's all I had on him.
All I had, which I thought was interesting because I have had explant surgery for my breast implants. He said that he encourages his patients to remove their breast implants because they are inflammatory.
Interesting. No implants for me.
No implants, girl.
So then we had our Lipoedema Australia board chair, Jen Barlett, come up to talk about Medicare. This was really fascinating, and I feel like I'm not going to do it justice, what she said. But basically, the whole Medicare solution is not the silver bullet that we think it's going to be. And I wanted to remind all of our listeners that Lipoedema Australia board members and the advisory board are volunteers. They all have their own full-time jobs and families. They do not get paid to do this, and the amount of work that they do is absolutely incredible considering it's on a volunteer basis.
Yeah, I didn't get many notes at all. I took some pictures of the different things we can do to help out. I meant to take a picture of, because a lot of people say, why isn't Medicare, like, why isn't this through Medicare? And there is a process, and it was a big, long, it was like 6 or 7 stages that you need to get through, and it all has to go through the Medical Services Advisory Committee. But to go to them, you've got to have all of this research, all of this paperwork, and then they go through before, like, it doesn't get to MPs and stuff till the very end stage. So it's a long process. And like you said, like, how much can they help?
Yeah.
Anyway, we're never going to get free liposuction. Like, that's off the table. Like, no one gets free liposuction. So they're not going to give us free liposuction. So we've sort of got to manage our expectations about what all this work is going to mean. And so, yeah.
So a couple of things as part of getting it seen with Medicare is an economic review, and they got a quote to conduct an economic review. It was going to be 2,000 to 3,000 K. So 2,000 to 3,000,
100,000.
300,000
more zeros.
dollars. Yeah, more zeros. Now, for Lipoedema Australia with no government funding, they rely on donations. It's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Could, with your help, but it might not. Also, the amount of research that would need to prove the things required to that medical services advisory committee would be equitable of $1 to $2 million worth of research, including the expertise required to actually fulfill that research. It's a lot of things that need to fall into place in order to get something like this prepared.
Yeah. Absolutely. And they shared a slide which we'll share on our page when we do a bit of a roundup. But like all the different things we can do, like advocacy, media, see our MPs, parliamentary action, inquiry, and government support. So they're just the things we can get involved with to start getting some traction on getting even our MPs to know what it is. Like the people who can make change need to know about us. You know, now that we're all rallying together, we need to come together and spread out and see our MPs and start making a bit of noise.
Yeah, and Lipoedema Australia actually has a MP pack, so you can go to their website and get a resource for you to be able to take to your member of parliament. And the more we do that, the more letters we write with our own story. So if you have I don't feel like I have a particularly moving story in my
harrowing.
Lipoedema. Yeah, exactly. Like I've been very lucky in my journey. But if you have a particular journey, please write your story to your MP and use the packs that Lipoedema Australia have, because the more we get, we flood them with our stories, the more they're going to think that we care about this, and so then they will care about it as well.
And you don't have to do it alone. If you get to set up a meeting with your MP, a board member will do it with you, whether it's virtually or if they're in your area, they will come with you to the meeting with your MP. So you get the thing started and they'll join on with you and support you to make that happen.
So good. Pretty amazing for volunteers.
I know, right?
The last talk that we had for the day was with Jacqui Scruby, and she is she's a person in Parliament, but for the community. I'm really sorry that I butchered that, Jacqui, because you sound incredible. But basically, she challenged us to ask, without this Medicare thing, what else could the government do for us in terms of lipedema? And we came up with 4 things: recognition, research, funding, and then Medicare at the end. But those, probably the 3 first things, the last thing wouldn't happen without those 3 first things in a significant amount.
Yeah, absolutely. What did I take a picture of? Oh, yeah. Be the change you want to see. If not now, then when? If not you, then who? That was her little catchphrase. I like that. Okay. And so it was like, write to your MP, then lipedema will be in the system. Oh, that was the thing. So they have this system. So if you write to an MP anywhere in Australia, they can then, someone in Parliament can do this search, and it searches keywords in all correspondence. And then it brings up like a word cloud of words that have come up a lot lately. So, you know, at the moment it's like cost of living crisis, it's Palestine. Sorry? Yeah, Gaza. And like those things are coming up. Lipedema has never come up. So if we all start sending these emails and getting traction, then we'll start showing up, and then we're going to make the MPs go, oh, what's this thing? Attend community. If you have lipedema catch-ups, morning teas, invite an MP. Tell them to come and have a chat. You know, bring them into the circle. Make them part of the conversation. Let them hear everybody's stories. Buy them a coffee if you can. You know, that might sweeten the deal. Then we can fundraise and donate, and we can volunteer with Lipoedema Australia. Right? They're going to look for awareness advocates,
and they're also looking for more board members. Advisory board members as well.
Yes.
At the moment. Cool. Oh my gosh.
I think we need to go and get ready for a gala dinner.
We're going to a gala.
Drag bingo, people. Like, come on, this is so fun.
What about that? Oh my gosh. I better take some Panadol.
Get you dosed up.
All right. Until our next episode where we recap day 2.
Bye for now. When we started the Lipoedema podcast, we relied on word of mouth and existing connections.
Our following has happened organically, and we are so honoured by your support.
As we learn more about the world of social media and algorithms, we have a request.
When you are listening to our podcast or watching on YouTube, let us know what you think.
Hit follow or subscribe.
Leave us a comment or write a review.
The more engagement we get, the more our message is shared.
And the greater our reach to those women suffering in silence.
Thank you for listening to the Lipoedema podcast. Lipedema and its symptoms vary from individual to individual. The opinions and advice voiced in this podcast are of a personal nature and used for educational purposes.
Please take away from this podcast what resonates with you, and please see your GP or preferred specialist for diagnosis and healthcare. We are Shelley and Tiana from the Lipoedema podcast. Until our next episode, bye for now.